What up guys, SuperMetal983 here. Here we is a kind of discussion vlog and kind of a question to you guys, and that is my metal YouTube community and anyone else who wants to get involved with this video series. But yeah, this is just a question I would like to ask in a video that I've been pondering on doing the past couple of months, and it's about albums of the year or top album lists or whatever you want to categorize this as. But this is just kind of my question. Does your albums of the year withstand the test of time? And are they still indeed your albums of the year it came out? Do you still get that overwhelming sensation when you listen to it? Do you still get blown away? Is it still one of the greatest albums ever written? Is it still the best in the band's discography, etc, etc? I'd like to see some video responses on this, and if you want, leave us a link on my Facebook page, which is obviously linked down below, so I can check out your video responses or whatever, yeah. And or just leave a comment in general. I'd like to see some response on this video, please. But obviously for this video, we're going to whittle down my top albums as well that I've done. I first started doing them in 2011. For all it wasn't the greatest video when I first done it, it's still a top albums list. I didn't do one in 2012, but we'll get to that in a little bit. And then since then, I've been steady doing my top albums of the year list. So yeah, we're going to whittle through these albums, starting with 2011, as I said. And my album of the year for 2011, if you didn't know, was, surprise, surprise, Ingested with the Surreption. Now, there was a lot of reasons contributing to why this is my album of the year. One being that I feel, personally, that this was the year that Ingested highlighted themselves, in my eyes, as my favourite band of all times. Because this album just blew my mind when I first heard it. And it was a little bit of a different kettle of fish compared to Surpassing the Boundaries of Human Suffering. Because Surpassing the Boundaries of Human Suffering, obviously being my favourite album of all times, was a more slam-orientated release with a little bit of a deathcore influence, whereas this album was just a more straight-up deathcore release. But that's just my personal preference, and I still feel like it kind of falls in the same sort of line as maybe Despised Icon in some ways. That's what I feel, anyway. But there was a few albums that came out that year, including my favourite Black Dahlia Murder album, which is obviously Ritual, and that one was in second place, but this one took the biscuit for me, because, as I said, it highlighted why Ingested got themselves crowned, in my personal opinion, as the greatest band of all times. Firstly, this album, for all it's not really a slam album, it's still a fucking amazing album, especially for the deathcore sort of vibe that is on here. It's riffy, it's heavy, gritty, but it doesn't have the slam elements. But in my personal opinion, it doesn't matter, because this album riffs so hard. Vocal performance is absolutely intense. It's a very intense, riffy album. So I'd say it's more straight up deathcore, but does it withstand, and is it still my album of the year for 2011? Hell yes, there's nothing that tops this in 2011, if you ask me. Absolutely love this album. Wow, absolute monster of an album, and Ingested are, once again, as I keep on saying, a monstrous band, and once again, your favourite band. Anyways, now we get to 2012, and now this is where things get a little bit tricky, and one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video. Because for all, this album that I'm going to show you came out right near the end of the year. I believe, from what it said on Google, I can't remember, it came out December 12th, if I'm not mistaken, and for all, it was quite late after this album came out, and I first heard it, I was blown away by it. I listened to it so much, I was like, yeah, I probably should consider that my album of the year. And I'm talking about Annihilator with the Palpable Leprosy of Pollution. Now, if you think Rings of Saturn are chaotic and just obnoxious as hell, you just need to hear this album. This is over the top, just obnoxious, and just as crazy as it gets when it comes to 2012, if you ask me. This album I probably listened to about 50 times. Probably one of my most played albums of all times. Like, I was literally obsessed with this album when it first came out. And when it came to do a review, I realised that I didn't do my top albums list of 2012, so I thought, you know what, this album's just blew me away when it first came out, so I'll do a review. And quite frankly, as I said in the review, this was my album of the year for 2012, even though it came out pretty late, so it might not seem that it should be my album of the year. That throne will probably go to Thy Art Is Murder's Hate when that came out, not the Nuclear Blast press, because that came out in 2013. It was a repress. The original one came out in 2012 because there was a load of confusion about that, but that would have probably been my album of the year if it not been dethroned by this album. So I personally feel that over the course of 2012 to when this review came out for this album, this was my album of the year for that year. And to be honest, I wouldn't change it because it's still one of my most played albums. I absolutely love it. Dan Watson's vocal performance on this is absolutely monstrous and filthy as hell, and the musicianship is just obnoxious and crazy as hell. So if you haven't heard this album, which I'd be very surprised if you're into deathcore, check out Annihilator's The Palpable, Leprosy of Pollution, which was my album of the year for 2012. Now we get on to 2013 with some metalcore that made me album of the year. And once again, like the Surreption and Ingested, there was a lot of albums that could have been considered for album of the year for 2013. One that comes immediately to mind was Disarmed Descent by Killswitch Engage. And for all I listened to that one a shit ton, this one got the most plays, and quite frankly, every time I listen to this album, I still get butterflies, and it still will always be my album of the year for 2013. And that is Arcite with The Escape Key. Now this album, for all it's just a Geordie Killswitch Engage, let's be real. The guys know I love them loads, they're my brothers, but guys, this is absolutely amazing. I absolutely love this album. It still holds a soft spot in my heart, and I have this album on repeat still. Every track on this album kills, makes us warm, and just reminds us from when I first heard this album to going to that many shows to see Arcite and learning the words and just singing me heart out to them. And I still sing me heart out to them. And I might as well add, before this video goes up, they will have played their final show, unfortunately. Rest in peace, Arcite, what can I say? But this album just gives me warm, fuzzy feelings, and I listened to it so much in 2013 that there was no doubt in my head that even though Killswitch Engage was an absolutely incredible album, that this one gave me the biggest wow factor of 2013, if you ask me. It's absolutely amazing. If you haven't heard this album, make sure you do. I'll obviously leave some links down below of where you can check out some songs from this album, and yeah, just check it out. It's absolutely amazing. Definitely the Geordie Killswitch, if you ask me. Alright, and now we'll get to what we're on, 2014. Now this one, much like Ingested, when this came out on CD, I bought it instantly and knew straight away from when I got it into my possession that this was going to be my album of the year for that year. Nothing dethroned it. There was so many good albums that year. I might as well add Kill or Be Killed, for example, Neck Silver, Arch Enemy, amongst others. There was so many good releases in 2014, but this one just got the most players, and quite frankly, I was blown away because it was a debut album, and I don't think I'd ever been such blown away in a long time. And I'm talking about Any Given Day with My Longest Way Home. Now, these guys, very unknown at the time, and quite frankly, when I heard this album, I first got introduced to them first off through their cover of Rihanna, Diamonds, I believe the song's called, and I absolutely love that song. Had it on repeat for months and months and months. And then when the debut album dropped, I was just like, this is exactly what I needed. So, ooh, this just dropped out. Sorry about that. But when this album just dropped, I fell in love with every single track. I had this on repeat and repeat, no matter what release came out, whether it was Eschatologies by Neck Silver, Kill or Be Killed self-titled, or what was the other one I said? War Eternal by Arcite. No matter what came out, this one took the throne and just dethroned them every single time. Even though I thought, oh, it's slightly better. No, it just went straight back up. Because, quite frankly, this is one of the best metalcore albums in my collection, and still one of the best metalcore albums I've heard. It's kind of got a bit of a heavier groove to it than most metalcore, but this is still a powerful album to listen to. Their follow-up album, which is called, what's it called again off the top of my head? Everlasting, which is this one, quite frankly, is an excellent album, but this album just took the biscuit for me when I first heard it. Released under Redfield Records. So if you haven't heard this album, make sure you do. It's quintessential metalcore, if you ask me. Excellent stuff. Now, this is another reason why I wanted to do this video for you, because this next album is an album that I look back on and think to myself, was that really my album of the year for that year? And quite frankly, I'm not sure, because this was quite a hard year for me personally, and there was quite a few albums that I listened to in that year, but there wasn't an awful lot of albums. In fact, there was rarely any albums that gave us that instant, boom, that's me album of the year feeling. And quite frankly, as far as the other albums are concerned, as soon as I heard them, I was like, yeah, this is pretty much my album of the year. And this one, for all it didn't give us that feeling, this one was probably my album of the year because of the amount of players that I gave it. And I still really enjoy it this day, and I'm really looking forward to seeing them live again on the Slayer tour, with the final Slayer tour, along with Anthrax and Obituary, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, this was my album of the year for 2015. I'm talking about Lamb of God with Sturm und Drang. Now, this album, for all it was my most played album of that year that I listened to, and the one that I probably got the most wow factor out of, I feel like that year wasn't the greatest year for metal. There was some really solid releases, but there wasn't anything quite wow, you know, like war, you know. But this album definitely for me was my album of the year for that year. The main thing what did it for me was the song Overlord, which obviously features Randy doing cleans for the first time on a release. Obviously, he'd done a couple of cleans, I think, on what's the album called? Resolution, I think it's called. Their last album. For all he'd done a couple of cleans here and there, he never done a full song. And quite frankly, I loved the cleans on this album. I thought it was a breath of fresh air, and it opened a lot of gates for Lamb of God and what they're going to be doing next up. I know Burn the Priest have got an album coming out later this year, but what can you do? I will be checking that out. I might as well add. But anyway, this album still is some amazing songs in this. Like 512 is personally my favourite song on this album. I enjoy Embers, which I believe features the singer from Deftones. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Torches is another amazing song. But yeah, overall though, this one I'd say it was my album of the year for 2015. For all it's still not my favourite Lamb of God album, it's still behind the likes of Ashes of the Wake and Descending. It's still a very, very good album if you ask me, but was it album of the year? I don't know. It didn't blow us away, but maybe there was something better from that year that I'll check out later. But as far as I'm concerned, this was my album of the year for 2015, Lamb of God's Sturm und Drang. And now we'll get to 2016, and this was, quite frankly, one of the best deathcore albums that I've ever heard, and still one of my favourite ones of all time. You know it by now, I love me boys, Within Destruction, with their second album, because I know I need to correct myself, because in my Death Wish review, I said that was their second album, but it's actually their third album, so sorry guys. But I'm talking about, obviously, Void by Within Destruction. Holy shit, man. There was so many good albums in 2016. Obviously, Osiah's debut, Architects, amongst others. But the one that blew me away and literally punched me right in the fucking face the most and blew my mind was Within Destruction. This album just, oh my god, just absolutely eviscerated me when I first heard it. from that intro Dark Impairment to when it kicks in on the song Void, you literally just get literally eviscerated when you first hear that track. And quite frankly, this is easily one of my favourite albums of all time. I absolutely love this thing, and every time I hear it, I just think of my boys within Destruction. They've supported us ever since I reviewed this album, and I really want to thank them from the bottom of my heart. It is awesome to have you supporting my channel, and I'll continue to support you, and I cannot wait, guys, to see us at Fall in the Borough 3 in November. I know that's going to be an absolutely insane weekend, so yeah, make sure you check out their second album, Void. It is absolutely incredible, and also check out their new album, Death Wish. And for all those fake slammers, fuck off. Anyway, now we get to 2017, and I know I've whittled on about this album in a CD review, in my top albums list. I'm going to whittle on about it again, because this has become one of my all-time favourite albums. I absolutely adore, I literally adore this album, which was my album of the year for 2017, and that was Supremacy by Malevolence. Holy shit, man. This, as you know, I listened to so much in 2017. From when I saw them live, I knew instantly, like, wow, this is a spectacle to see. And obviously hearing the songs that are on this album and them executing it with motherfucking perfection, precision, and just overall grit. And then obviously the gig atmosphere on top of that just highlighted what I knew, and that these guys crafted the best album of 2017. And when it came to the end of the year, there was no question that this was going to be number one. Supremacy is just an absolute monster of heavy riffs, catchy hooks, and just overall just wow factor. It makes me hairs stand on end. It gives us chills, and quite frankly, it is one of the greatest albums ever written, if you ask me. I might have been overly obsessed lately with it, but I've been showing a lot more people this album, and they've all been blown away by the overall riffs and the just overall atmosphere that's on this album. It's there, and quite frankly, if you haven't heard this album or own this in your CD collection and you're a fan of riffs, then you just need to get off this motherfucking planet and suffocate in space, you know, because this is, it's just absolutely unbelievable to hear. I mean, quite frankly, I love it. I think it's incredible. So make sure you check out Supremacy by Malevolence if you want the best riffs you'll ever hear in your life. So yeah, that is my revisiting my top albums of the year, or my albums of the year, you could say. I'd like, as I said, I'd like to see some video responses, maybe some comments down below in what was your albums of the year. Do they still hold their throne of being the album of the year for that year? Or has something dethroned it? Like, since then you've heard, like, oh, such and such album and this dethroned that. Just let us know in the comment section below. I've got a couple more CD reviews and album reviews on the way, and also updates and purchases and super metal recommendations are being should we just say assorted at the moment. So yeah, I'll see you until the next video, and remember, stay metal, and I'll see you later.